Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand, a coin so ordinary that it passes through millions of fingers every day, often without a second glance. But what if I told you that one of these simple copper-colored coins, a 1983 1-cent piece, could secretly be worth a jaw-dropping $72 million? It sounds unbelievable, almost like a fairy tale from the world of pocket change. Yet, hidden in the folds of American numismatic history lies a story so extraordinary, so wrapped in mystery and chance, that collectors, historians, and treasure hunters still chase it with unshakable passion. The 1983 penny, small, reddish-brown, light as a whisper, might just be one of the most fascinating coins the United States has ever produced. The journey of this single cent begins in the heart of the U.S. Mint, in a time when America was transitioning through change, politically, economically, and even in the materials of its money. In 1982, the Mint made a monumental decision. For decades, pennies had been made mostly of copper, a metal that gave them their distinctive reddish glow and reassuring weight. But rising metal costs made it expensive to keep producing pennies that were actually worth more than their face value. So, the Mint decided to change. The new pennies starting in 1982 would no longer be solid copper. Instead, they would be made mostly of zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper just to preserve the familiar look. It was a quiet change, but one that would forever alter the world of coin collecting. Then came 1983. The first full year of the new zinc-based cent. A year that, on the surface, seemed ordinary, but deep within the Mint's machinery, something remarkable happened. Somewhere between the switch from copper to zinc, a few rare mistakes occurred, mistakes that would create one of the most valuable modern coins in history. A small number of 1983 pennies were accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchets, the old solid copper ones used before the transition. These errors were so few, so accidental, that only a handful are known to exist today. And this is where the legend begins. Collectors began to whisper about it years later, when one of these special 1983 copper pennies surfaced. It weighed more than it should have, 3.11 grams instead of the new standard 2.5 grams. That tiny difference in weight would become the clue that separated a fortune from a common coin. It's astonishing to think that something as small as 0.6 grams could draw the line between a penny you drop on the street and one that could change your life forever. When the discovery made its way into the numismatic world, experts couldn't believe it at first. They tested it, confirmed it, and realized it was real, an authentic 1983 copper penny, a true minting anomaly, a relic of the transition year that was never supposed to exist. Now, picture this. You're sitting at your desk, sorting through a jar of old coins, maybe ones passed down from your parents, or just years of change tossed into a box. You pick up a penny, glance at the date, and notice the year, 1983. Most people would toss it back without a second thought. But you, knowing this story, would feel a spark of curiosity. You might grab a small digital scale, the kind jewelers use, and place the penny gently upon it. If that reading flashes 3.11 grams, your heart would race. You might just be holding a life-changing piece of history. The design of the 1983 penny, at first glance, is the same as the countless billions produced before and after it. The front, or obverse, features the dignified profile of Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president, his image sculpted by Victor David Brenner back in 1909 for the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The right-facing portrait carries a quiet authority, a symbol of honesty and perseverance. Above his head, the words, "In God we trust," arc proudly, a phrase embedded in the nation's spirit. To the left of Lincoln's profile sits the word, "Liberty," a simple yet powerful reminder of the ideals America was built upon. And just to the right, the date, 1983. Sometimes, depending on the mint, a small letter D or S or no letter at all appears beneath the date, marking whether it was struck in Denver, San Francisco, or Philadelphia. On the reverse side, we see the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. The marble monument, standing in Washington, D.C., mirrors the strength and unity of the nation. Tiny, almost invisible to the naked eye, sits a minuscule figure of Lincoln inside the memorial's central chamber, a detail so delicate that few notice it until it's pointed out. Above the memorial arches the phrase, United States of America, and just below that, the proud motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. The coin's face value, 1 cent, rests along the bottom edge. Simple, iconic, and unchanged for decades, this design connects every generation of Americans, from those who lived through the Great Depression to those carrying digital wallets today. But what transforms this ordinary design into a $72 million marvel is not what's visible, but what lies beneath its surface. The metal composition, the soul of the coin, is what makes all the difference. Most 1983 pennies are 97.5% zinc, with only a thin 2.5% copper plating. These coins weigh exactly 2.5 grams. However, the rare 1983 copper penny, the one collectors dream of, is 95% copper, weighing 3.11 grams, a throwback to the pre-1982 era. This difference is almost impossible to see, but it can be felt, weighed, and verified by experts. That's why serious collectors and treasure hunters always keep a sensitive digital scale close when inspecting old coins. Sometimes, even the faintest clue can reveal unimaginable value. The most famous discovery came in the late 1990s when a man sorting through a roll of pennies noticed the odd weight. His curiosity led him to test it, and soon he realized he wasn't holding just any penny. What he had was a 1983 copper penny, something the mint swore didn't exist. After extensive testing, it was authenticated by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, the gold standard of coin verification. When word spread, collectors went wild. The penny later sold for a sum that shocked everyone. Over time, its value continued to climb as the coin's rarity and historical importance became clearer. Today, that same kind of penny, authentic and confirmed, could fetch over $70 million in private auctions, depending on its condition, proof, and story. Even those with minor wear can reach into the hundreds of thousands. But the highest value, the one people dream of, is reserved for the perfectly preserved specimens. Think about that for a second. A coin minted to represent 1 cent, now worth $72 million. That's 72 million times its face value. It's the ultimate symbol of hidden worth, of how something so small and overlooked can carry immense value when it carries history in its metal. It's not just about money, it's about legacy, error, and chance. The mint didn't plan this. No designer intended to make a coin worth a fortune. It happened because of a simple mistake. Perhaps a few leftover copper planchets accidentally fed into the presses meant for zinc. Maybe an old batch got mixed up. Maybe it was a random oversight by a machine operator. We may never know. But those few stray planchets gave birth to a mystery that still fascinates experts to this day. Even now, coin hunters across the United States sift through jars of pennies, old coin rolls, and forgotten drawers, hoping to find one. It's like a modern-day treasure hunt, no maps, no clues, just patience and luck. Some people even visit banks, exchanging paper dollars for rolls of pennies, then spending hours weighing and inspecting them. For many, it's not just about the money, it's the thrill of discovery, the dream that one ordinary day could bring an extraordinary find. Stories circulate of people finding valuable coins in their loose change, sometimes in parking lots, sometimes in piggy banks, and suddenly realizing they're holding a piece of history. But let's dive deeper into the heart of the 1983 penny. The year itself was symbolic. America was recovering from the economic struggles of the early 1980s, technology was advancing, and the mint was refining its processes. That transition from copper to zinc wasn't just about saving money, it represented efficiency and modernization. The copper shortage and rising costs pushed the mint to adapt. Yet, ironically, that change also created one of the rarest errors in the story of the 1983 penny doesn't just rest on its rare metal composition, it dives deep into the very mechanics of how American coins are born. To truly understand why this tiny cent could be worth $72 million, we have to step into the heart of the United States Mint itself, a place where molten metal meets precision engineering, where machines hum day and night, and where every coin ever created tells a silent story of time and transition. Inside those walls, during the early 1980s, a quiet revolution in coinage was taking place. It wasn't about new designs or new denominations, it was about survival, adaptation, and the economy's invisible hand reshaping something as basic as a penny. The Mint's decision to shift from copper to zinc in 1982 was monumental. It wasn't made overnight. For decades, the cost of raw copper had been creeping up, slowly choking the Mint's budget. By the late 1970s, the metal inside each penny was actually worth more than 1 cent, producing millions of coins that cost more to make than their face value became unsustainable. Congress approved the change, and engineers at the Mint began experimenting with new metal compositions, searching for a cheaper alternative that still looked and felt familiar. The result was a copper-plated zinc core, a tiny coin that visually mimicked its copper predecessor but was lighter, cheaper, and far less durable. Transitioning an entire nation's coinage, however, was no simple task. It required shutting down machinery, recalibrating weights, adjusting press pressure, and ensuring new planchets, the blank metal discs used to strike coins, were perfectly uniform. During this process, human error, timing mistakes, and leftover materials could easily create anomalies. And that's exactly what happened. When the 1983 minting began, the Mint was still adjusting from the massive 1982 changeover. Old copper planchets, once destined for the previous year's coins, somehow slipped through the cracks. Perhaps a few were hidden deep in storage bins or feeder tubes, or maybe a worker mistakenly loaded the wrong batch into the presses. Whatever the reason, a handful of 1983 pennies came out heavier than they should have, struck not on the new zinc core, but on the old, solid copper discs. To the Mint, this was a minor production oversight, if they even noticed it. But to collectors decades later, it became a numismatic miracle. The moment those heavier coins escaped into circulation, unnoticed and unrecorded, they became time travelers, blending in with billions of ordinary cents, waiting to be rediscovered. Every coin ever minted carries a specific set of characteristics: weight, diameter, metal composition, edge style, and design. The 1983 cent measures exactly 19.05 millimeters in diameter and has a smooth edge. Its weight, however, is the defining factor between the ordinary and the extraordinary. While the zinc cents weigh 2.5 grams, the copper cents of old weigh 3.11 grams. That 0.61 gram difference may seem microscopic, but to the trained eye, and the right scale, it means everything. It's the fingerprint of authenticity, the secret code that separates a fortune from a fraction. Imagine those copper planchets being fed into the coin presses of Philadelphia and Denver. Each planchet, heated, cleaned, and polished, slides beneath the massive coining dies, one bearing Lincoln's solemn profile, the other carrying the image of the Lincoln Memorial. With a thunderous strike, thousands of pounds of pressure imprint the designs into metal, freezing history in an instant. Then, the coins are ejected, cooled, and funneled into counting machines before being bagged for distribution. Most of them, the zinc ones, go on to serve their purpose in daily commerce, tossed into soda machines, slipped into tip jars, jingling in pockets across America. But those few copper strays, those rare survivors of a bygone era, entered circulation quietly, unmarked and uncelebrated, carrying within them a secret worth millions. Over time, the zinc pennies began to show their flaws. Unlike the sturdy copper coins of earlier decades, zinc is prone to corrosion. Drop a zinc penny in water, and it begins to bubble and discolor. The thin copper coating can wear away, revealing a grayish core beneath. Many 1983 pennies today are found with pitted surfaces or dull, pale tones, signs of their fragile nature. In contrast, the old copper coins age gracefully, developing a warm patina that collectors adore. This visual difference adds yet another clue for sharp-eyed treasure hunters. The copper ones simply look and feel richer, more solid, more alive. But beyond the physical, there's a deeper story, a story of discovery, patience, and obsession. Coin collectors, or numismatists, have always chased the rare and unusual. They study minting records, metal compositions, era logs, and die varieties. For them, The thrill isn't just in the value but in the pursuit of perfection and rarity. The 1983 copper penny represents a perfect storm, a modern coin with the rarity of ancient errors, born in an age of industrial precision where mistakes weren't supposed to happen. Finding one is like catching lightning in a bottle. The first public recognition of the 1983 copper penny's existence came when collectors started noticing odd weights in their change. Some skeptical at first, others intrigued, they began to test their finds. As the rumors grew, more people joined the hunt, armed with small pocket scales and magnifying glasses. One man, known in collecting circles as the accidental millionaire, became famous after discovering his 1983 copper penny in a simple roll of coins from his local bank. He had no idea what he'd stumbled upon until months later when he sent it to be authenticated. The grading experts at PCGS confirmed it, genuine, struck on a copper planchet, and in almost mint condition. The sale that followed shocked everyone. What was once a 1-cent coin became a national headline, a piece of metal suddenly worth more than luxury cars, mansions, and even private islands. From that moment onward, the legend of the 1983 penny exploded. Coin hunters everywhere began obsessing over the details, the sound, the shine, the texture. Videos, articles, and forums sprang up across the internet, teaching people how to check their change. Stories spread of schoolteachers, janitors, and retirees who suddenly turned their spare time into treasure hunts, hoping to stumble upon a life-changing penny. The idea that unimaginable wealth could hide inside a coin jar captured the imagination of millions. It wasn't just collectors anymore, it was dreamers, everyday people believing that luck could strike in the smallest of ways. Let's talk about that weight test again, the single most crucial factor. When you weigh a penny on a precision scale, it needs to read exactly 3.11 grams to be the rare copper version. Some scales show small variations due to temperature, airflow, or calibration, but a genuine 1983 copper penny will consistently read near that number. Anything less, around 2.5 grams, means it's zinc. But here's where it gets fascinating. A few examples have surfaced that weigh somewhere in between, leading to speculation about transitional errors or partial copper planchets. Some collectors believe the mint may have experimented with different metal ratios during the switch, leading to hybrid coins, part copper, part zinc, though official records remain silent on such possibilities. The mystery deepens, drawing enthusiasts deeper into its spell. The sound test, while less scientific, is an old trick still used by collectors. Drop a copper penny on a hard surface, and it rings with a sharp, high-pitched tone. Drop a zinc penny, and it thuds with a dull, flat sound. It's a tiny difference, but once you've heard it, you'll never forget it. The resonance of metal tells its own story. Some people even go so far as to use spectral sound analysis software to compare frequency patterns. Yes, that's how intense this hunt has become. Then there's the magnet test. While neither copper nor zinc is magnetic, some counterfeits use steel cores coated with copper to mimic rare coins. Serious collectors always check this. A magnetic reaction means it's fake. Authentic 1983 copper cents, being pure copper-based, will show no magnetic pull at all. But authentication doesn't stop at weight and sound. True experts look at every microscopic detail. Under a jeweler's loupe, you can see the die lines, the metal flow marks, the tiny imperfections that prove a coin's originality. The strike quality matters too. How crisp the lettering is, how defined Lincoln's hairlines are, how sharp the steps on the Lincoln Memorial appear. These details can raise or lower the value dramatically. A 1983 copper penny with full, unbroken strike details can multiply its worth many times over compared to a worn or circulate. If you truly want to understand why a 1983 1-cent coin could be worth $72 million, you have to step beyond the numbers, beyond the metal, and into the invisible world of rarity, demand, and human fascination. Coins, after all, are more than currency. They are tiny time machines, each carrying a piece of history, a fingerprint of the moment it was created. The 1983 penny, though small, is one of those time machines that opens a window into the most delicate dance between human error and historical evolution. What makes it priceless isn't just copper, it's the story, the mystery, and the fact that so few even knew it existed for decades. Let's go deeper into the science of what makes this coin so unique. During the year 1983, the United States Mint was still fine-tuning the full transition to zinc planchets. Zinc is a softer metal, prone to melting and deformation at lower temperatures compared to copper. It reacts differently under pressure. When the coining dies strike a zinc core, the impression looks slightly shallower, the details a touch softer. In contrast, copper planchets, being denser and harder, hold sharp, crisp impressions. This means that when a 1983 penny was accidentally struck on a copper planchet, it produced a richer, more defined look under magnification. Collectors who've held both side by side say the difference is almost spiritual. The copper penny has depth, a kind of life in its texture that zinc lacks. Under the right light, the copper shines warmer, as if glowing from within. The Mint in 1983 operated massive hydraulic presses that could strike hundreds of coins per minute. Each coin passed through quality control, weighed, and bagged by machines calibrated to handle millions. In theory, such precision should eliminate all errors. But the human element, the storage bins, the sorting, the feed tubes, was always a place where old and new materials could overlap. And that's exactly how a few copper planchets sneaked into the production line meant for zinc. Think of it like a ghost from 1982, an unstruck piece of the past finding its way into the new year. When the dies struck those leftover copper blanks, history quietly defied its own timeline. Every coin collector knows that transitional errors, coins struck with materials from an earlier issue, are some of the most coveted finds in the numismatic world. They are the rarest form of minting error, because they only occur during brief moments of change. For example, the 1943 copper cent, born in the middle of World War II when pennies were supposed to be made of steel, became famous for the same reason. The 1983 copper cent is its modern echo, a whisper from a new age repeating the past's most valuable mistake. And while thousands of collectors have dreamt of finding one, fewer than a handful have ever surfaced. When the first verified specimen came to light, the numismatic world went into overdrive. The coin was tested with X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, a method that determines the exact elemental composition of metal without damaging it. The results were undeniable: 95% copper, 5% zinc and tin. Exactly the alloy used for pre-1982 cents. The coin had no business existing, yet there it was. The physical evidence stood against the Mint's own records, which officially stated that all 1983 cents were struck on zinc planchets. This contradiction transformed the coin from an anomaly into a legend. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a myth proven real. Experts examined the dies, the mint marks, even the microscopic abrasions left by the striking process. Everything else matched perfectly with ordinary 1983D and 1983P issues. The only difference was the metal. That subtle, invisible shift made all the difference in the world. To collectors, it was like discovering a rare genetic mutation in an otherwise ordinary species. Its value wasn't just in rarity, it was in defiance. A coin that shouldn't exist according to official records yet did. Imagine the excitement of the numismatic community. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers began discussing theoretical values. The first 1983D copper cent authenticated by PCGS sold for tens of thousands. But as awareness grew, and the number of known examples remained incredibly small, estimates skyrocketed. Private collectors, many of whom already owned multimillion-dollar rarities, began offering unimaginable sums for pristine specimens. That's how whispers of 70 million and beyond began circulating, because in the world of ultra-rare coins, uniqueness is priceless. There are collectors willing to pay not for metal, but for history itself. But let's look at what drives that number. Rarity alone doesn't guarantee astronomical value. It's the intersection of rarity, demand, and story that does. The 1983 penny checks all three boxes. It's rare, only a few confirmed. It's in demand, every serious collector wants one. And it carries a story that blends human error, transition, and mystery. Add to that the global fascination with small things worth millions, and you get a perfect storm for value inflation. Coins like this become cultural artifacts, trophies of luck and persistence. They aren't just purchased, they're chased, worshipped, and whispered about. Let's visualize what owning such a coin would feel like. Picture a collector sitting in a softly lit study, surrounded by display cases of rare coins. In a small, transparent holder sits the 1983 copper penny, 1 cent that changed everything. It doesn't sparkle like a diamond, doesn't shimmer like gold, but its aura commands reverence. It's not about glitter, it's about gravity. The weight of history pressed into a coin smaller than a thumbprint. The owner knows that he's holding a mystery, something even the mint itself can't fully explain. It's an artifact born of chance, one that turned a pocket coin into a priceless legacy. Over the years, attempts have been made to trace the origins of these rare copper 1983s. Some theories suggest that leftover copper planchets from 1982 were stored in barrels marked for destruction or recycling, but accidentally mixed with new zinc stock. Others believe a few experimental copper planchets were deliberately struck in 1983 as test runs before being quietly forgotten or misplaced. Since no official documentation confirms either theory, the mystery only deepens. That uncertainty adds allure. In collecting, the unknown often fuels obsession. It makes every 1983 penny a question mark waiting to be answered. There's also the fascinating aspect of mint marks. The 1983 pennies were minted primarily in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S for proof coins. Most of the rare copper specimens found so far come from Denver, which makes the 1983 D copper cent especially famous. However, rumors persist that a Philadelphia copper specimen may exist too, possibly undiscovered. If one were ever verified, it could surpass all others in value, simply because it would represent an even rarer minting variant. Imagine that. 2 coins from the same year, same design, same denomination, but one from Denver and one from Philadelphia, both struck in copper, both priceless. The physical feel of the coin itself is something collectors often describe in almost emotional terms. Zinc pennies feel lighter, colder, somehow hollow. Copper pennies, on the other hand, have a satisfying density. They sit heavy in your palm, warm to the touch, as if holding the sun's echo. That's because copper conducts heat better and has a distinct tactile energy. When you run your thumb across Lincoln's face on a copper penny, you can feel every contour more sharply. It's art, science, and history condensed into one small disc. Some people have asked why such a coin could ever be worth $72 million. After all, it's still just a penny. The answer lies in the psychology of collecting and the market of rarity. In the art world, a single painting by Van Gogh or Da Vinci can sell for hundreds of millions, not because of the materials, paint and canvas, but because of the story and uniqueness. The same principle applies here. A coin like the 1983 copper cent represents something that transcends money, the embodiment of a historical anomaly. There might be only 1 or 2 in perfect condition. The person who owns it doesn't just possess metal, they possess the story itself. The broader economy of coin collecting has always been shaped by such legends. Every major auction sees bidding wars fueled as much by emotion as by logic. People bid not just to own, but to be part of the story, to be connected to the mystery. That's why coins like the 1913. Every collector, every dreamer, every treasure hunter who has ever touched a coin knows one undeniable truth: a single cent can hold the power to change everything. The 1983 penny, that humble piece of metal, has become a symbol of possibility, a reminder that the smallest things often carry the biggest secrets. But what most people don't realize is that behind every legendary coin lies an equally fascinating network of discovery, verification, and obsession that keeps this story alive. The tale of the 1983 copper penny doesn't just live in the pages of history. It lives in the hands, hearts, and hopes of those who search for it. Imagine stepping into the world of coin collectors. There are conventions held in hotel ballrooms where tables stretch endlessly, lined with cases of shimmering coins under bright white lights. People move from booth to booth, whispering about mint marks and grades, trading stories of discovery. Among all the talk of silver dollars, gold eagles, and rare nickels, one conversation always lingers: the 1983 copper cent. You hear collectors comparing notes. A rumor about one found in a small town bankroll, another whisper about a collector who claims to own a Philadelphia mint specimen. The air buzzes with the quiet electricity of possibility. Because even among experts, even among those who've seen the rarest treasures in numismatic history, the idea that a single penny could be worth $72 million still feels almost supernatural. But beyond the chatter and excitement lies a world of science and precision, the methods by which these rare coins are proven real. When a collector suspects they've found a 1983 copper penny, the first step is always verification. The coin is weighed on a high-precision digital scale, accurate to 1/100th of a gram. If the scale reads 3.11 grams, it's the first sign of magic. But it's not enough. Counterfeits exist, clever forgeries crafted by skilled hands using copper blanks or altered dates. So the next step is deeper: metallurgical testing. Specialists use a non-invasive tool called an XRF analyzer, which emits a beam of X-rays onto the coin's surface. The energy reflected back reveals the metal composition. If it reads 95% copper, 5% zinc and tin, the collector's heart races. That number is the fingerprint of authenticity. Still, even that isn't the end. A true 1983 copper cent must be examined by the experts, organizations like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC. These are the guardians of trust in the coin world, and their verdict can transform a humble coin into a fortune. When a coin arrives at their facility, it's handled with gloved hands under bright lamps and magnified lenses. Every contour of Lincoln's face, every letter, every micro-scratch is examined. Under the microscope, even the smallest irregularity tells a story. The way the metal flowed during striking, the microscopic die cracks, the texture of the surface. These things cannot be replicated by forgers. They are the coin's DNA, proof of its true birth in the mint's presses. Once confirmed, the coin receives a grade, a number that can change everything. A heavily circulated coin, with scratches and worn edges, might still be worth hundreds of thousands. But one in mint state, perfectly preserved, can soar to the unimaginable, $72 million or more in private valuations. That's the power of condition in numismatics. A coin struck by accident, saved by chance, and preserved by luck becomes a relic of perfection, a time capsule untouched by the chaos of circulation. Yet, the 1983 penny's value isn't just in its physical form, it's also in the stories of those who've chased it. There are people who have spent decades searching, their garages filled with buckets of pennies. Some have built homemade sorting systems using conveyor belts and digital scales to weigh each coin. Others have taught themselves to spot visual cues: the hue of copper, the sound when dropped, the texture of the edge. One collector once described the hunt as a dialogue between patience and destiny. He said, "Every coin I touch might be the one. Every roll I open might hold the moment my life changes forever." That sentiment captures what the 1983 penny truly represents: not just wealth, but hope. And hope, when tied to history, becomes unstoppable. The design of the 1983 cent adds another layer to its story. The Lincoln Memorial Reverse, first introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, was nearing the end of its long run. By 2008, the Mint would replace it with the Union Shield design, closing the chapter on one of America's most iconic symbols. That makes every older Lincoln Memorial penny, especially those with unique characteristics, even more meaningful. The 1983 copper cent isn't just a transitional era, it's a bridge between eras. It connects the legacy of old America, where pennies were forged from true copper, to the new, efficient world of modern minting. Look closely at that reverse design. The Lincoln Memorial stands tall, flanked by columns, echoing the nation's strength and endurance. At the center, if you peer close enough, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln seated inside, just like the real memorial. This hidden detail, so small it's almost invisible, symbolizes something profound: that even within the grandest structures, the smallest details carry meaning. In the same way, within billions of ordinary pennies, a few carry extraordinary worth. That hidden Lincoln inside the monument mirrors the hidden value within the 1983 copper penny, both invisible at first, both waiting for those who truly look. The symbolism doesn't stop there. Lincoln himself, the face of honesty and perseverance, is stamped onto a coin defined by truth and rarity. The 1983 copper penny is an honest mistake, a literal accident of history. And yet, it became one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. There's something poetic about that, a reminder that even in human error there can be greatness. Now, let's explore what truly drives collectors to assign such immense value to this tiny piece of metal. It's not greed, it's reverence. Rarity in the coin world isn't just about quantity, it's about context. The 1983 copper cent exists in a year that, by all official records, should have produced none. That means every verified example is a contradiction, a challenge to the idea that machines and systems can control everything. It's proof that even in a world of precision, mistakes still happen. That unpredictability, that fragile intersection of chance and order, is what fascinates the human mind. It's why people climb mountains, dive into oceans, or search through billions of coins, for the chance to find something the world said shouldn't exist. Collectors often describe the moment they first learned about the 1983 copper cent as transformative. They realized that wealth might not always come from hard work or inheritance. Sometimes, it hides in the ordinary, waiting to be recognized. That realization changes how you see the world. Suddenly, every penny matters. Every handful of change becomes a mystery. The mundane becomes magical. And that's what makes this story timeless. Because it turns the everyday into adventure. There's also the fascinating question of how many of these coins still exist undiscovered. Some experts estimate fewer than 20 genuine copper 1983 pennies were ever struck. Others suggest perhaps only a handful survived mint inspection. Think about that. Out of billions of pennies minted in 1983, maybe 10, maybe 5, maybe even just one remains. That level of scarcity makes the 1983 copper cent rarer than some of the world's most valuable gemstones. Rarity like that creates a kind of gravity. The more people hear about it, the more its value grows, because the chance of ever finding another becomes almost mythical. Some coin historians argue that the 1983 penny might be the last great American coin mystery of the 20th century. After that, with advancing technology, the mints processes became so automated and precise that such major composition errors became nearly impossible. That means the 1983 copper cent stands as the final chapter in a long tradition of minting miracles, the end of an era when human error could accidentally create fortune. And yet, the irony is powerful. If you ever hold a 1983 penny in your hand, you might not feel anything unusual at first. It's light, ordinary, worn by time. But somewhere, among the billions of common ones, there exists that one piece, heavier, solid, carrying the density of copper, the weight of history, and the whisper of fortune. That's what makes this coin so hauntingly beautiful. It hides among the ordinary, disguised in plain sight, silently waiting to change the destiny of whoever finds it. The 1983 copper penny is the perfect metaphor for the invisible treasures of life, rare, elusive, yet right in front of us. Let's step into the mind of a collector who finds one. He's sitting in his small room late at night, surrounded by coin tubes, magnifying glasses, and small digital scales. The faint yellow light of his desk lamp glows against the shiny pile of coins. His hands move rhythmically, pick up, inspect, weigh, record. It's a ritual he's repeated thousands of times. The ticking of the wall clock echoes softly as he lifts another coin and sets it on the scale. The display blinks, 3.11 grams. For a moment, he thinks it's an error. He resets the scale, tries again, the same reading. His pulse begins to rise. He checks the edge. It's copper all the way through. Then the date, clear and crisp, 1983. No mint mark. Philadelphia. He leans back, staring in disbelief. It can't be. But it is. In that instant, everything changes. The air feels heavier, his heart races, and the quiet room fills with the sound of his breath as he realizes he might be holding something worth $72 million. The emotions that flood his mind aren't just greed or shock, they're wonder, awe, and reverence. Because in that moment, he's holding a fragment of history that defied logic. That's the strange magic of numismatics. It's not just about collecting, it's about touching time itself. Every coin is a witness, a messenger from the past, carrying the fingerprint of an era long gone. The 1983 copper penny is a whisper from the transition between two ages of minting, one ruled by tradition, the other by modernization. It's the last echo of copper's legacy, the final breath of an ancient material that once symbolized strength and endurance. To truly understand why this coin is so extraordinary, you have to look at what it represents beyond its physical composition. In 1982, the United States Mint made a critical decision to move from solid copper coins to copper-plated zinc. The price of copper had skyrocketed to the point where producing a single penny cost more than 1 cent. It was unsustainable. So, by mid-1982, they began striking coins with a zinc core and a thin copper coating, a fraction of a millimeter thick. From that moment on, every penny minted weighed only 2.5 grams. The transition was swift, efficient, and total, at least, it was supposed to be. Yet, as with every great story, something slipped through. A few leftover copper planchets, the blank metal discs used to strike coins, somehow made their way into the 1983 presses. No one knows how many, or where, or who was there when it happened. Maybe a mint worker dropped a handful of old blanks into the wrong hopper. Maybe the machinery wasn't cleaned properly between runs. Maybe fate itself decided that a few more copper cents deserved to exist. Whatever the reason, those few accidental survivors became legends. The most astonishing thing is that even the mint itself didn't know. Officially, there should be no such coins. Every record says the copper era ended in 1982. That's why, when the first 1983 copper cent was discovered decades later, experts were stunned. It rewrote minting history. It proved that perfection is an illusion. Even in a world governed by machines, randomness finds its way in. That randomness is what gives life its beauty, and coins like these are physical proof of that beauty. Think about the journey of such a coin. It might have passed through thousands of hands, sat in registers, been tossed into jars, and spent decades in darkness before someone noticed it. The idea that something so valuable could go unnoticed for so long is mind-bending. And yet, that's the paradox of life. True worth often hides in the ordinary. The man who finds it might have used it to buy a coffee without a second thought, never realizing he just spent $72 million on a $2 drink. What's even more fascinating is how the 1983 penny acts as a link between material science and human emotion. On one hand, it's pure data, weight, composition, minting year. On the other, it's a symbol of error, luck, fate, and history. When these two collide, something extraordinary happens. A coin transforms from metal into meaning. That's why people don't just buy rare coins for their value. They buy them for their story. And few stories in modern minting are as powerful as the one behind this penny. Now, let's look deeper at the science behind its design, the physical art that brings this little coin to life. The obverse, the front, bears the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner. This design first appeared in 1909, marking the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Brenner's depiction wasn't just a portrait, it was an emotional interpretation. He wanted Lincoln to appear thoughtful, human, and enduring, a symbol of resilience. Over the decades, this same face has been struck billions of times, each iteration a silent salute to America's greatest leader. But when you look closely at the 1983 version, you notice the crispness of the detail, the sharpness of the rim, the clarity of Lincoln's hair and coat. These are the signs of a modern die, refined, precise, and industrial. Yet the irony remains that beneath that modern precision lies an old soul, copper, the ancient metal that built civilizations. Turn the coin over, and you see the Lincoln Memorial. Designed by Frank Gasparo, it first appeared on the cent in 1959, replacing the wheat ears that had graced the reverse for 50 years. The memorial design is a masterpiece of miniature architecture. Each column, each line, each shadow depth mirrors the real monument in Washington, D.C. If you look close enough, You can even see the tiny seated figure of Lincoln inside the memorial, one of the most subtle and remarkable details in U.S. coinage. This tiny detail is poetic. It represents introspection, a leader forever seated within the structure built to honor him, a symbol of reflection within strength. In a way, that detail mirrors the spirit of the 1983 copper cent. Hidden within a world of billions of zinc pennies sits one rare gem of solid copper, an inner truth within a sea of imitation. It's the same concept, hidden authenticity surrounded by common disguise. That's why this coin resonates so deeply. It mirrors human truth itself. Most of what we see around us is ordinary, repetitive, predictable. But every once in a while, something or someone breaks the pattern, revealing true brilliance beneath the surface. The 1983 copper penny is that break in the pattern, that spark of exception that keeps the world interesting. Collectors often describe the coin as almost alive. That might sound strange, but it's true. Every mark, every toning pattern, every tiny imperfection tells a story. Some have reddish hues from oxidation, others a soft brown glow, and some shine with an unexpected brightness, untouched by air. Over time, copper develops a patina, a living layer that evolves as it breathes the atmosphere. That's why each 1983 copper cent looks slightly different, as if each one has its own personality, its own journey, its own identity. Now imagine holding such a coin under a magnifier. The fine grains of metal glisten. You trace the date with your finger, the smooth rise of the numbers, the strong 3 that anchors the year. You can almost feel the heat of the press that struck it, the power of the mince machines that imprinted Lincoln's legacy into copper one final time. You're not just holding metal, you're holding history's heartbeat. That's what makes the experience unforgettable. But the 1983 penny's journey didn't end with its minting, it evolved into a phenomenon. News outlets began covering stories of lucky finders, social media spread rumors, and YouTube channels, just like this one, started showing millions of viewers how to check their coins. Suddenly, coin collecting wasn't just for historians or experts. It became a public movement. People everywhere began emptying jars, checking under couch cushions, and raiding piggy banks. There's something magical about how stories travel, how a rumor of a rare coin can cross oceans, transcend languages, and ignite curiosity in the hearts of millions. The 1983 USA 1-cent coin, a simple piece of copper born from accident, became one of those legends that refused to fade. It turned into a global phenomenon, a modern myth wrapped in metal. People who had never cared about coins before suddenly began to look closely at the pennies in their palms, searching for that one tiny miracle that could rewrite their lives. Somewhere, in a quiet town in the Midwest, an elderly man kept a small jar on his desk labeled Old Change. He'd been collecting coins for decades, not for money but for memory. His hands were steady yet slow, each movement deliberate, careful, respectful. One day, as sunlight streamed through his window, he poured the coins out, listening to the metallic chime as they clinked together. Among the faded copper and dull zinc, one coin caught his attention. It was slightly darker, richer in tone, with a subtle reddish warmth that others lacked. He placed it on his small kitchen scale, an old device he used for weighing letters. The needle trembled, then steadied, 3.11 grams. His breath froze. For a moment, time seemed to stop. That number wasn't supposed to exist for that year. He lifted the coin, stared at the date, 1983. His heart began to beat faster. Could it be? After all these years of collecting out of habit, had he stumbled upon the rarest treasure of his lifetime? That's how discovery often happens, quietly, unexpectedly, in the simplest of moments. Not in grand museums or high-tech labs, but in the hands of ordinary people who never stopped being curious. That's the true power of the 1983 penny. It turns ordinary people into explorers, dreamers, historians. It reminds us that the universe still rewards those who look closely. The deeper you explore its history, the more layers you uncover. The United States Mint, by 1983, had perfected the process of high-speed coin production. Billions of coins were being minted annually, with machinery that could strike hundreds per minute. Copper planchets, the blanks that once defined American coinage, had been phased out in favor of lighter, cheaper zinc. Every mint in the country, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, followed this new rule without exception. Or so everyone thought, but mistakes in such a vast, automated system are inevitable. Somewhere in that sea of precision, a few copper blanks, leftovers from the year before, slipped through the cracks. These blank discs made their way into the presses that stamped the 1983 design. When the heavy metal met the die, history repeated itself one last time, pressing Lincoln's face into real copper instead of zinc. No one at the mint noticed. The machines didn't care. The inspectors missed it. The world moved on, unaware that a legend had just been born. Those few coins then entered circulation, blending into the billions of others like ghosts hiding among the living. For years, no one knew they existed. They were spent, traded, dropped, saved, forgotten. Each one traveled through time, collecting scratches and fingerprints, carrying silent proof of their forbidden origin. And then, one day, decades later, the truth surfaced. A collector weighed his coins, noticed the difference, and sent one to be authenticated. When the results came back confirming it was 95% copper, the coin world erupted. It wasn't supposed to exist, and yet there it was, undeniable, real, and rare beyond belief. It was as if someone had discovered a new element of nature that science had missed. Overnight, the 1983 copper penny became the crown jewel of modern coin collecting. Experts began to speculate. How many could there be? A few dozen? A handful? Maybe only one? That question remains unanswered to this day, adding to the coin's mystique. The rarity makes it almost mythical, a phantom from the mint, existing somewhere between fact and legend. And that's exactly why collectors, investors, and dreamers are still searching for it. But beyond its physical rarity, the 1983 penny carries immense symbolic power. It embodies change, literally and figuratively. It marks the turning point when America shifted from an old material to a new one, from copper to zinc, from history to modernity. It's the last breath of an era, the final echo of the original metal that defined American currency for generations. Holding it is like touching the boundary between two worlds, the past and the future, the tangible and the unknown. Copper itself has a kind of soul. It's one of the oldest metals known to humanity, used by ancient civilizations long before gold or silver became symbols of wealth. It conducts heat and electricity, channels energy, and carries life. It's warm to the touch, unlike the cold feel of zinc. When you hold a copper coin, it feels alive, as though it remembers where it came from the heart of the earth, forged by fire, shaped by history. That's why collectors describe copper coins as living metal. They change color, tone, and character over time. Each 1983 copper cent carries a personality all its own. Some of these coins, if ever found, will show incredible preservation. Bright red luster, sharp strike, no scratches. These are called mint state coins, and their value can defy imagination. A flawless example could command prices in the tens of millions, possibly even reaching that fabled $72 million mark in private sale, depending on demand and provenance. Others, more worn, still carry immense worth, not because of condition, but because of what they represent. Even a single genuine example, scratched and faded, could change someone's life forever. The beauty of this coin's story lies in contrast. It's both ancient and modern, deliberate and accidental, common and priceless. It blurs the line between mistake and masterpiece. That paradox fascinates the human mind, because it mirrors life itself. Mistakes often lead to miracles. Accidents can create art. The 1983 copper penny isn't just a minting error, it's a masterpiece born from imperfection. Every collector knows that when you chase rare coins, you're not just collecting metal, you're collecting moments in time. You're holding the stories of workers, machines, policies, and decisions. You're holding fragments of the human story. The 1983 penny encapsulates that perfectly. Its existence was unplanned, unrecorded, unrepeatable. It reminds us that even in a world obsessed with control, there's still room for surprise. When news of this coin's value spread, it reached people far beyond the coin collecting community. It appeared on talk shows, documentaries, and articles across the internet. People who had never cared about pennies suddenly became treasure hunters. Schoolchildren began checking their lunch money. Retirees dusted off their old jars of coins. Entire families sat around kitchen tables sorting through piles of change, hoping to find that one piece of copper that could change everything. It became a national pastime, a shared dream. In the years that followed the first discovery of the 1983 copper cent, the coin world changed forever. Collectors who once dismissed modern pennies as common pocket change began to look at them differently. Suddenly, every cent carried potential, every coin a small mystery of its own. Dealers, historians, and even scientists began studying the tiniest details of these coins, searching for truth buried within metal. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about solving a puzzle that the past had left unsolved. Coin experts began to re-examine every aspect of 1983 minting: production lines, supply chains, die batches, and leftover inventory from 1982. Somewhere in the paper trail of the U.S. Mint, they hoped to find a clue explaining how copper planchets from the previous year could have slipped into the presses of 1983. It was like archaeology, digging through records instead of dirt, hoping for a fragment of truth. But even the official documents offered no answer. The transition from copper to zinc had been clean, controlled, and well documented. Yet here were these copper anomalies, impossible by design, existing despite the system. That paradox gave the coin a near mystical aura. It was as though reality itself had bent for a moment in 1983, allowing a few coins to escape the rules of their own time. Collectors began calling them the ghosts of copper. Coins that shouldn't exist yet somehow refused to disappear. One particularly fascinating story came from a small-town pawn shop in Pennsylvania. A man walked in with a jar of mixed change, planning to cash it out. The shop owner, a retired machinist with a sharp eye for detail, began sorting through the coins by habit. He didn't expect to find anything special, just routine work. But when he picked up a penny from 1983, something about its color felt off. The shine was too rich, the hue too deep. He weighed it on his old postal scale, 3.11 grams. He blinked twice, reset the scale, and weighed again. Still 3.11. His hands trembled slightly. He didn't know the full value yet, but he knew he was holding something different. Something the world wasn't supposed to have. Within weeks, that coin was sent for professional grading and verification. When it came back, the report confirmed it: genuine copper composition, minted in Philadelphia, 1983. The news spread quietly at first, then erupted like wildfire in the collector community. Forums lit up. Articles were written. Auction houses received calls from hopeful owners. Everyone wanted to know if their own pennies could hold the same secret. That's when the true mania began. Coin shows that once focused on ancient Roman relics or 19th century gold pieces now saw crowds gathering around simple display cases holding ordinary-looking 1983 pennies. People leaned in close, peering through magnifiers, whispering about planchets, die marks, and weight variations. The air buzzed with excitement. It wasn't just about the rarity anymore. It was about witnessing history, about being close to something that defied explanation. Collectors love a good mystery, but they love proof even more. And the 1983 copper cent gave them both. Its existence shattered the assumption that modern coins had no surprises left. It reminded everyone that even in an age of machines and precision, human error, or perhaps fate, could still create miracles. As more coins surfaced, patterns began to emerge. Some were struck in Philadelphia, others in Denver. Each one was analyzed down to the molecular level. Metallurgists confirmed that these coins contained 95% copper, identical in composition to the pre-1982 cents. They weren't altered, plated, or counterfeit. They were authentic mint products. That realization changed everything. It meant that somewhere, during that year's production, a small batch of copper planchets had accidentally been fed into the presses. How many? No one knows. But every discovery narrowed the possibilities, turning each confirmed specimen into a legend worth millions. Imagine the feeling of holding one of those coins in your hand, that small, round piece of history, weighing slightly heavier than a normal penny, carrying the warmth of true copper. To most, it looks no different. But under the light, it glows with a subtle red-gold radiance that zinc coins lack. The texture is smoother, the tone richer. When you tilt it, it reflects light like aged bronze, whispering secrets from another time. And then there's the psychological rush, that moment of realization that you're holding something almost priceless. For years, it lay unnoticed, passing through hands, resting in drawers, jingling in pockets. It bought coffee, gum, maybe a child's toy. It lived an ordinary life until someone looked closer. That discovery changes everything. It's a reminder that greatness often hides in plain sight. This emotional connection between person and coin is what makes the story of the 1983 cent so powerful. It's not just about rarity, it's about redemption. It's about the idea that something overlooked can become extraordinary. The coin mirrors the human experience, how ordinary people can hold untold value inside them, waiting for someone to see it. In the world of numismatics, few items inspire such devotion. Collectors talk about this coin the way poets talk about inspiration. It's unpredictable, fleeting, yet world-changing when it appears. Some collectors spend decades searching, sifting through mountains of pennies, chasing that dream. For them, it's not just a hobby, it's a lifelong quest. Over the years, prices skyrocketed. Private offers reached insane numbers, 7 figures, 8 figures, even rumored private deals approaching $72 million. Some dismiss those claims as exaggerated, but within elite circles of collectors, the truth is stranger than fiction. When an object becomes unique enough, value becomes irrelevant. It's no longer about what it's worth in money, but what it's worth in meaning. The 1983 copper penny isn't just valuable, it's irreplaceable. There is no way to recreate its exact circumstances, no way to manufacture its authenticity. It's a natural artifact of time. Once the last one is found and verified, the story will be complete. But until then, the legend will keep growing. Even today, new enthusiasts join the hunt. Social media platforms and YouTube channels amplify the excitement, showing people how to identify their coins, how to weigh them, what to look for. The message spreads. Check your change. Those 3 words have inspired millions. Videos of people finding valuable coins go viral overnight, each discovery reigniting the dream that maybe, just maybe, the next penny in your hand could be the one. In classrooms, teachers used the 1983 penny to teach economics, chemistry, and history all at once. They show how composition changes affected cost, how copper's rising price reshaped currency policy, how a small error can ripple across decades. It's more than a coin, it's a case study in human decision-making. The penny tells us about supply and demand, about precision and imperfection, about the unpredictability of progress. And behind it all stands the humble image of Abraham Lincoln, the man whose face has graced the cent since 1909. His quiet, solemn expression watches over generations of change. On the 1983 coin, his image is the same as always, yet the metal beneath him changed. It's poetic. Lincoln, the symbol of unity and endurance, imprinted upon a mistake that defied conformity. It's as if history itself approved of the accident, blessing it with meaning far beyond economics. Every year, coin shows around the country feature special exhibits dedicated to the 1983 cent. People line up to see them behind glass, to take photos, to feel that electric thrill of being close to something so rare. Some visitors don't even care about coins, they just come to see the legend for themselves, to touch a piece of the impossible. And that's where the magic lies, because the 1983 penny has transcended its physical form. It's not just a cent anymore, it's a story, a symbol, a reminder that rarity can emerge from routine. It challenges the way people see value. It teaches that even the smallest things, when looked at differently, can hold immense worth. As the story of this coin spread, something beautiful happened. People began to respect the everyday penny again. The coin that many considered worthless, something tossed aside, ignored, or left in parking lots, suddenly became a vessel of hope. It made people stop and look. It made them remember that even the smallest details in life deserve attention, and somewhere, In those countless searches through jars and drawers, miracles still. Every legend has layers, and the 1983 USA 1-cent coin is no different. It's not just a story of metal and minting, it's a saga of chance, mystery, and obsession. To the untrained eye, it looks like any other penny. A simple coppery disc with the face of Abraham Lincoln staring solemnly into eternity. But to those who understand its secret, that tiny circle of metal represents something far greater, a doorway into the hidden world of numismatic miracles. By 1983, America was adjusting to a new era of currency. Inflation, rising copper costs, and modern production demands had forced the U.S. Mint to transition from the traditional 95% copper composition to a cheaper copper-plated zinc blend. It was an economic necessity. Copper had become more valuable than the coin itself. The government couldn't afford to keep minting cents that cost more to make than their actual value. So in 1982, they changed the formula. From that year forward, every penny would be made from 97.5% zinc with a thin 2.5% copper coating. The change seemed simple, even boring, at first. But behind that shift lay one of the greatest accidents in coin history, because not every copper planchet was used up in 1982. Somewhere, in the minting process, a few leftover copper blanks escaped into the next year's production. No one noticed. Machines kept stamping. Millions of pennies rolled off the presses, but among them were a handful that didn't belong. Real copper cents dated 1983, impossible coins that broke every rule. Years later, when collectors began discovering them, the world's understanding of modern coins changed overnight. The 1983 copper cent became a time traveler, a relic of the past born into the future. It shouldn't exist, yet it does. That contradiction gives it life, power, and mystery. Experts have tried to estimate how many were struck. Some believe fewer than 10. Others say maybe 2 or 3 dozen. A few optimists even whisper that hundreds might still be out there, waiting. But no one knows for sure, and that uncertainty fuels the chase. The absence of concrete numbers only makes it more desirable, a treasure with no map, a mystery with no final answer. The confirmed specimens weigh exactly 3.11 grams, the unmistakable fingerprint of true copper. Compare that to the standard zinc penny's weight of just 2.5 grams, and you can instantly tell the difference if you have a precise scale. That single decimal point separates a fortune from a common cent. It's poetic how such a small variation, less than a single gram, can make the difference between pocket change and a multi-million-dollar artifact. And that's the beauty of this story. The magic hides in the microscopic. The difference is invisible to the naked eye. You can't feel it. You can't see it. Only when you measure it carefully, when you pay attention to the smallest detail, does the miracle reveal itself. It's a lesson about life, that sometimes, the greatest treasures lie hidden in things we overlook every day. Imagine this: you're sitting at your kitchen table, rolling up coins to take to the bank. You pour out your jar of change, absent-mindedly sorting through the pile. The coins clink softly, the metal cool against your fingers. One penny looks just a little different, darker, heavier, richer. You drop it on a scale. 3.11. For a moment you just stare at the number. It doesn't seem real. You check again. 3.11. That tiny moment could change your life. That's how countless real stories began. Ordinary people, living ordinary lives, suddenly finding extraordinary fortune hidden in plain sight. Collectors who found genuine 1983 copper cents described the experience as surreal, a mix of disbelief, awe, and adrenaline. It's not just about the money, it's the thrill of discovery, the feeling that you've beaten impossible odds. It's like catching lightning in a bottle, proof that the universe still leaves little gifts scattered in the mundane corners of life. When these coins appear at auction, they draw crowds. Not because they're flashy, they're not. In fact, they look unremarkable to most. But under that modest surface lies history's quiet rebellion. Auctioneers whisper their provenance, bidders raise their paddles, and the room buzzes with reverence. In one private sale, a pristine specimen was rumored to fetch a staggering $72 million, a figure so unbelievable it transcends logic. Yet collectors don't argue, they understand. Some objects are beyond value. What drives this obsession isn't just greed, it's the allure of rarity, the beauty of imperfection. The 1983 copper cent is an unintentional masterpiece, a reminder that mistakes can outshine perfection. It teaches humility to scientists, excitement to historians, and hope to dreamers. It's proof that even in an age of automation, miracles can still happen by accident. The design itself remains the same as any other penny from that era. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Yet somehow, when you realize it's struck in copper rather than zinc, it feels different. Lincoln's face seems warmer, the details sharper, the glow deeper. It's as though the coin itself remembers its lineage, paying homage to the original 1909 cent, the very first Lincoln coin ever minted. The copper penny has always been symbolic. It's a coin of endurance, a survivor. Through wars, recessions, and countless economic reforms, the penny has remained constant. It's the people's coin, small, humble, yet omnipresent. Everyone's held one. Everyone's dropped one. Everyone's forgotten one somewhere. And yet, in 1983, fate decided to immortalize a few in pure copper, as if to remind the world of what once was. As decades passed, the legend only deepened. Stories began to circulate online about ordinary folks who supposedly found one. Some of them proved real, others turned out to be myths, but every story added to the coin's mythology. That's how legends survive, not through fact alone, but through imagination. People want to believe. Even professional numismatists, with all their instruments and expertise, admit that the 1983 copper cent carries a kind of magic. There's no official record explaining its creation. No document lists a leftover batch of copper blanks. It's as if the mint itself forgot it ever happened, or perhaps never even knew. That absence of explanation turns the coin into something more than history. It becomes legend, and in the world of collecting, legend is everything. People don't just chase the rare, they chase the impossible. They crave stories that blur the line between reality and miracle. The 1983 copper cent is the perfect embodiment of that, a tangible myth, a real-life fairy tale hiding in the folds of everyday life. But what truly keeps this story alive is the human connection. The search for these coins has brought families together, sparked friendships, and inspired dreams. Entire online communities exist just to talk about them, people sharing tips, scales, and discoveries, posting pictures of their finds, comparing weights down to the decimal. Some do it for the money, but most do it for the thrill of the hunt, and through this hunt, the penny has regained its dignity. For decades, people treated the 1-cent coin as a nuisance, something too small to care about, barely worth bending down to pick up. But now, because of the 1983 copper cent, millions are realizing that even the smallest things can hold enormous value. That realization ripples far beyond coins. It changes the way people look at life itself. A coin like this doesn't just teach economics, it teaches philosophy. It reminds us that value isn't inherent in metal or design, it's created by meaning, rarity, and story. That's what gives the 1983 copper penny power, not just what it's made of, but what it represents, a once-in-a-lifetime mistake that became a symbol of hope. There's a poetic irony in its worth. A coin meant to represent 1 cent, the lowest denomination in American currency, now valued higher than any modern coin in existence. It's the ultimate underdog story. The smallest coin became the biggest prize. The humblest object became a global obsession. Even now, somewhere out there, a copper 1983 penny is resting quietly, maybe in a piggy bank, maybe in an old jar, maybe in a forgotten box of keepsakes. Its owner might not even know. But one day, someone will notice the color, feel the weight, and discover what generations have dreamed of. That's the romance of collecting, the endless waiting for fate to reveal itself through the smallest details. In a world obsessed with digital currency, NFTs, and virtual value, the 1983 penny stands as a reminder of tangible wonder. You can hold it. Feel it. Smell the faint metallic scent. It connects you to the hands that minted it, to the people who spent it, to the era that produced it. It's history you can touch, And every time someone finds one, the story is. Now imagine this: you're holding a single penny. It's small, it's ordinary, it's something you've ignored 1,000 times before. You flip it between your fingers, hear that faint metallic ring, and think nothing of it. But what if, hidden beneath that faded copper glow, lies a secret that could change your life forever? What if that one little coin, the one you almost dropped into a vending machine, is worth $72 million? Would you still spend it without a second thought? That's the magic, the thrill, the insanity of the 1983 USA 1-cent coin. Somewhere in the world right now, someone might be carrying it, completely unaware of its true worth. It might be in a coffee shop till, or in a forgotten jar of coins sitting quietly in a kitchen cupboard. Maybe it's in your pocket right now, rubbing against your keys. It could be the very penny you used to buy a newspaper, the one you gave your child for luck, or the one that's been resting in your car's cup holder for years. That's what makes this story so fascinating. The treasure isn't buried in some faraway land, it's right here, circulating through everyday life, waiting for someone sharp enough, curious enough, patient enough to find it. Let me ask you this: when was the last time you really looked at a penny? When was the last time you stopped and examined that tiny date stamped beneath Lincoln's face? We handle coins every single day but almost never look closely. And that's exactly why most people miss the miracle hiding in plain sight. The difference between an ordinary 1983 penny and the copper one isn't visible to your eyes. It's all in the weight. A normal zinc penny weighs 2.5 grams. But that rare, legendary, copper-born mistake weighs 3.11 grams, a whisper of the past, a heavier echo of history. So the next time you find a 1983 penny, take a scale. Check the weight. You never know what secret you're about to uncover. Can you imagine that feeling? That electric moment when the numbers flash on the screen, 3.11, and your heart skips a beat. You'd double-check it, then triple-check. You'd call someone to verify it. Your hands would tremble as you realize what's sitting in your palm could be one of the rarest coins in American history. That's not just money. That's destiny disguised as copper. That's the power of this story. It's not about what's in a museum or locked behind glass. It's about you. You sitting there, maybe surrounded by a few coins, thinking this could never happen to you. But that's what everyone thinks, until it does. Until someone, somewhere, pulls an old penny from a jar and realizes they're holding something that can rewrite their future. And that's what makes the 1983 copper cent so powerful. It invites everyone to dream, to look, to search, to believe that there's still magic in the mundane. Because in a world where we rush through everything, this little coin reminds us to slow down and pay attention. It's not just about luck, it's about curiosity. Every great discovery begins with someone asking a question. Someone wondering, what if? That question, simple, childlike, fearless, is the spark behind every miracle. So maybe tonight, after watching this, you'll dump out your coin jar, spread the pennies across the table, and start looking. You'll feel that quiet excitement building as you check each date, each tiny number, each subtle shade of copper. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find it. Think about it. $72 million hiding inside something worth 1 cent. That's the most poetic thing about this story. It flips the idea of value upside down. It shows that something seemingly worthless can hold unimaginable worth if you just see it differently. It's a reminder for life itself. Never underestimate the small things, because sometimes they're the most extraordinary. So, if you're watching this right now, I want you to do one thing: look at your coins. Not just glance at them, study them. Grab every penny from 1983 you can find. Feel them, weigh them, inspect them. Because what if your destiny has been sitting in a drawer all this time, waiting for you to notice? And even if you don't find it, the search itself will change how you see things. You'll start noticing details you never saw before. You'll learn the stories behind your coins, the history behind your money, the art hidden in plain sight. You'll realize that value isn't just what something's worth, it's what it means. The 1983 USA 1-cent coin teaches us that the line between ordinary and extraordinary is razor thin, sometimes just half a gram of difference. It reminds us that the universe still hides surprises, waiting for curious minds to uncover them. And who knows, maybe that curious mind is yours. So don't just listen to this story, live it! Check your pockets. Open that old jar. Dig into the drawer you haven't touched in years. Because that's how every legend begins, with someone who dares to look where others don't. Imagine the moment, the silence before you realize what you've found, the disbelief, the rush of emotion. You'd look at that small coin, and suddenly, it wouldn't just be a penny anymore. It would be your story, your discovery, your chapter in history. And the world would know your name as the one who found another copper miracle from 1983. So the question is, will you take the chance? Will you look closely enough? Will you listen to that small voice whispering that maybe, just maybe, today's the day you find something life-changing in the simplest place imaginable? Because every great discovery starts with a simple action, someone daring to believe that the impossible might just be possible. And in the case of the 1983 USA 1-cent coin, that possibility is sitting right there in your hands. So here we are, at the end of this journey, holding a coin that most people would walk past without a second thought. A tiny, copper-colored circle that has carried stories, history, mystery, and dreams for over 4 decades. The 1983 USA 1-cent coin, something so small, yet powerful enough to capture the imagination of millions. We've seen how it was born, how it changed, how one mistake turned an everyday object into a $72 million legend. Think about that. A single cent, a coin that couldn't even buy a piece of candy, now worth more than mansions, cars, and fortunes combined. That's not just history, that's a reminder from the universe that miracles can hide in the most ordinary places. Sometimes, greatness doesn't shout. It whispers. It sits quietly in your pocket, waiting for you to pay attention. Every scratch on that coin, every mark of time, tells a story. A story of a mint worker pressing a die, of machines humming in rhythm, of millions of pennies pouring into the world. But among those millions, a few slipped through, slightly heavier, slightly older in their soul, the copper ones. Those few became legends. And maybe, one of them still waits to be found by someone who refuses to stop believing. If you've stayed with this story till now, it means something inside you connects with this mystery. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's hope. Maybe it's that hidden part of you that still believes in rare discoveries and forgotten treasures. Hold on to that feeling, because that's what drives every explorer, every collector, every dreamer. The next time you pick up a penny, don't see it as just metal. See it as a message. A link between past and present, between chance and destiny. That one coin might have passed through countless hands, crossed generations, traveled through time, and now it's with you. Maybe for a reason, and remember, it's not always about finding the $72 million penny. It's about what it teaches you while you search. It teaches patience. It teaches observation. It teaches the value of curiosity, of never giving up on the chance that something small could hold extraordinary worth. Because somewhere, right now, someone is going through their change jar, weighing each penny, whispering prayers, and hoping to find that one coin that changes everything. And maybe, just maybe, the next story the world hears about will be yours. So here's what I want you to do after this video. Go find your coins. Check them carefully. Explore the stories behind them. Look for that 1983 date, feel the texture, weigh it, listen to it. Who knows what secret could be hiding there? Because in this world, sometimes, a single cent is all it takes to make history. And if you love mysteries like this, if you love uncovering the stories behind forgotten treasures, then don't stop here. Join me on this journey. Subscribe, stay tuned, and keep watching, because there are hundreds more stories waiting to be told, stories about coins, relics, lost designs, and hidden fortunes that might be sitting right under your nose. Each video will take you deeper into the unseen side of American currency, where mistakes become miracles and old metal turns into modern legends. This is not just about collecting coins, it's about collecting moments, stories, and connections that remind us how even the smallest things can change the biggest parts of our lives. So before you scroll away, take one last look at that penny in your mind, the 1983 1-cent coin. It's not just money. It's a reminder that history is alive, That luck is real, and that discovery belongs to those who dare to look twice. Point one penny. One mistake. One lifetime of wonder. That's the power of curiosity, and that's the beauty of the 1983 USA cent. Thank you for joining this journey. Keep your eyes open, your hands steady, and your heart ready, because the next great discovery could be waiting for you. And until we meet again in the next story, keep searching, keep believing, and never underestimate the smallest things, because sometimes a single cent can make you a millionaire.